I've been living in a village for 20 years as the real daughter, and after junior high, I went to the factory and spent 7 years tightening screws. The reason they found me was simple. My family needed a woman for an arranged marriage. They wouldn't let the fake daughter marry the skinny-legged Henry. No biggie, I'll marry him. On the day my family forced me to marry Henry, I wore a houndstooth Chanel-style suit with white silk edges. But after years in the factory, I don't care for sunscreen, so my skin is a bit dark and doesn't really match the outfit. Henry sat in a wheelchair, looking at me with a mix of indifference and mockery. Word is, Henry had a first love, smart and beautiful, named Carrie. When Henry had his accident, she turned her back and went abroad for a PhD, ignoring him completely. Marrying me was both to solidify the family deal and to see if Carrie would get jealous. It took just 5 minutes to make it official. Our faces were on that fresh red certificate. Even with his sour face, you could see Henry was good looking. But so what? After 5 years of tightening screws in the factory, my heart's hardened like a rock. The day my parents came for me, I was out causing trouble for the foreman who'd been harassing me. The next day, the foreman showed up with a bandaged head, cursing non-stop, but still bowing and scraping to that finely dressed couple. I heard they were there to find their real daughter. Standing in the crowd, I scoffed. Too many novels had me fantasizing about being some elite family's lost kid. If I were their real daughter, first thing I'd do is buy the factory and fire that foreman. Never thought they'd actually walk toward me. That elegant lady reached out a well-manicured hand. Molly, is it really you? You're my daughter. Turns out when I was born, there was a mix-up at the hospital. She'd been looking for me for 20 years. When she saw my oily machinery-stained hands, she awkwardly froze. The middle-aged man beside her studied me with a hint of disappointment he couldn't hide. I'm Molly, grew up in an orphanage. At 15, with middle school behind me, I started work in a factory. Now at 20, sure, I've longed for family, but the reality is pretty different from the fantasy. Guess I resembled that lady enough they didn't even need a DNA test. With my birthmark that matched, they took me back. Wearing blue work clothes and green safety shoes, I stood on their marble floors. Across from me, in a princess dress, Becky yelled, "Daddy, Mommy, why'd you bring home a beggar?" I frowned. The elegant lady soothed her. "Becky, this is your sister." "I don't have a sister who's such a disgrace. But without her, you'd have to marry Henry." "I won't marry that cripple." I pulled together bits and pieces, realized they brought me back just to marry off to a disabled guy in her place. Taking out my $800 smartphone, I searched, "Who's Henry?" The search showed a pair of brooding eyes. Okay, not bad, a talented young man, a couple notches above the single guys at the factory. Then I searched, "How rich is Becky's family?" My jaw dropped at the numbers. Rich enough no one noticed my fashion catastrophe. I let my oil-stained safety shoes leave black marks on their marble floor. The middle-aged man sternly ordered, "Molly, as Becky's older sister, you need to step up. We brought you back to marry Henry." "Great," I sneered. "Not a day's benefit, but all the responsibility." I squinted. 1 million. "I want 1 million or no deal." Becky threw a fit. "Why do you get 1 million? What have you done for this family?" "You do it. You marry him." I picked my ear. Her princess dress voice loud but ineffective. She ended up begging her dad, "Daddy, look at her." His gaze softened with her, but turned disdainful when aimed at me. 1 million, not a cent more. How did you get so mercenary at your age? $10 could buy 2 sausage and egg sandwiches in the backstreet near our factory. So 1 million made me more than a little mercenary. On my wedding day to Henry, they'd painted 3 layers of makeup on me to hide my real skin color. I looked pale. Henry in a white suit on his wheelchair, we met for the second time. With a white veil on my head, we looked quite matched together. Except he kept glancing at the door. My gaze followed, half hoping for that dramatic wedding takeover you see only on TV. But no one came to interrupt. The officiator asked Henry if he'd accept me as his lifelong partner, to respect and love me. Henry pressed his lips together, silent. The officiator, unfazed by awkward situations, turned to me. "Do you wish to marry this man?" "I do," I replied in my broken Mandarin. The guests laughed. Some said I was disgraceful. But so what? After the ceremony, Henry and I were in a room. He typed away on his computer, Sending an email, I got married today. Then he hesitated, deleting the second part, I still miss you. What a hopeless romantic. Even a cripple can fly. Why not chase after love bravely? I found myself chuckling. Henry looked miserable yet annoyed. What are you laughing at? Becky gave me $1 million. With 3% annual interest, that's 30 grand a year for doing nothing. You're happy with such a small amount of money? Henry wasn't like everyone else who laughed at my accent. Did you know that screwing bolts can earn you 5 grand a month? That's 60,000 a year. And 300,000 over 5 years. It would take 5 years of screwing bolts to match that. I calculated that acquiring a screw factory would actually cost over 50 million. If I'd known earlier, I would have asked for more. His family paid for etiquette classes, floral classes, and even hired a tutor to fix my accent. They even splashed out for me to take an MBA course. I'm not sure how they got me in, with just a middle school diploma. But I was eager to learn, never skip class after all, it's free. During breaks, my classmates talked about China's rapid growth, the stock market crash, and the rise of DeepSeek. Eventually, they started discussing small businesses and high-tech advancements. I got intrigued and joined in. One guy looked at me and said, interested, Mrs. Hannah, how much can you put in? His family was known in City A. Even if they looked down on me, they wouldn't show it. 10 million, I said. He chuckled, shook his head. Still too little. You should try getting more from Henry with some pillow talk. Pillow talk wasn't happening. Our 3-meter bed had us sleeping on our own pillows, untouched by each other. Back home, I saw our gardener crying with a bruise on her head. She recounted how she accidentally stepped on an orchid leaf while trimming plants. Henry got mad and hit her with gardening shears. I graduated 985 in horticulture, but couldn't find work. This easy job pays 20,000 monthly. Hard as it is to swallow, I have to endure it. The young girl sobbed. I went to the bedroom. Henry was sleeping, looking so gentle. I woke him up and insisted he apologize to her. His eyes turned fierce as he opened them. Why should I? Who do you think you are? Do you know how rare that orchid is? I laughed. Who do I think I am? You can just tell your family to divorce me then. Those of us from the bottom have our ways. You wouldn't want your toothbrush used for the toilet, or clothes infested with roaches. At least I keep to myself. Henry reluctantly apologized. The little gardener was surprised and murmured, it's okay. I was also at fault. Later, she found me, without calling me madam. She lifted her youthful face and said, you're actually younger than me. But I want to say thank you, sister. With $1 million, what could I do? With my middle school education, the best I could think of was opening a restaurant. But street restaurants were failing left and right. Back in the MBA class, I realized my middle school diploma was enough to understand the courses. My classmates complained about dealing with an arrogant AI student who had conditions for investment rights. I understood he wanted to buy rights cheaply, and the other party wouldn't agree, so he got frustrated. It wasn't hard to meet Mike, the student who my classmate was frustrated with. He was the stereotypical programmer, plaid shirt, black-rimmed glasses, serious demeanor. Learning I was just a bored housewife with some extra cash to invest, Mike seemed disappointed. But I encouraged him. You've probably hit some walls lately. I don't want your rights or interfere with your ideas. My funds are limited. Why don't you tell me more about your designs? Talking about his work made Mike animated, even firing up his laptop to show me his code. Look how elegant the programming language is. It was beautiful, because I understood it. During those 5 years of screwing bolts, I believed in online courses that claimed to turn programming novices into experts. After my 9 to 5, I'd still study programming for 2 hours, dreaming of walking into an office building with a laptop. Mike's code and mine were worlds apart. This was the difference between talent and ordinary folks. But I'll never forget the moment I first typed on that second-hand computer. I really wanted to shout, Molly will invest $1 billion. But I only had $1 million. Surprisingly, Mike agreed. We rented a couple of offices in a student startup space, and he gathered some classmates to form a team, focusing on smart home applications. After eating with Mike at a mall, I saw my so-called sister with my biological mother. I watched as she cooed on her mom's arm, and then saw my biological mother casually pay over $200,000 for jewelry. Mike commented on the unreachable lives of the rich beside me. I said truly. The wind was strong, my eyes watered. Before I could watch their happy little family much longer, I got a call. Molly, I didn't give you that million to be squandered. Where did you frivolously spend it? My biological father. Biological mother hesitated. Molly, we know you've never handled big money. We were worried you'd get scammed. I asked, I just saw some jewelry for over $200,000. Could you buy it for me? The woman dodged. You don't usually need such expensive jewelry. I raised my voice. Oh really? The happy threesome looked back at me, awkwardly meeting my gaze. I even doubted if Becky was really the fake daughter. Even a tiny bit of affection for me would have been something. I was only a tool to be used once brought back. The paternity test results surprised me. There's no doubt I'm their biological child. When I returned home, Henry was throwing things around, breaking dishes. The servants stood by with their heads down, clearly frightened. These outbursts happen every month at least once. Triggered by small things. His inability to walk made him sensitive. Either the food wasn't to his taste or he'd have paranoia. Convinced servants were gossiping about him. As soon as I stepped forward, a servant tugged at my sleeve and whispered that someone important was coming today. The lady is Henry's mother. Henry has a younger brother. Since he ended up in a wheelchair after a car accident, he fell from grace, from being groomed as the successor to the family business to becoming irrelevant. I wasn't sure what his mother said this time to make him so angry. I put the paternity test report on the table and called for the servant. Auntie, can you clean up all these broken porcelain pieces? Henry's eyes glanced over the paternity report, and suddenly he looked at me with a sneer. Molly, oh, do you really think you were switched at birth in the hospital? If there was a switch, where's the other kid? They only adopted Becky 2 years later. Have you ever wondered why they feel so little guilt towards you? Henry's words cut deep. I wanted to convince myself otherwise, but deep down, I sensed he was speaking the truth. That night, while lying in bed, I turned my back to Henry without saying a word. I heard him breathing, and then speaking in a cold voice. I'm sorry. It's all right. I should have seen it coming, I replied, my voice muffled. Are you crying? He asked. No. I've been screwing bolts at a factory for 5 years. My heart's as tough as a screwdriver by now. The next day, I was surprised to receive a call from Henry's mother. I had only met her once at the wedding. She struck me as refined and graceful. She was direct. Molly, I didn't expect Henry to choose you. I arranged those courses, just so you wouldn't embarrass us. Our family doesn't need you to be seen in public. As for your business, you understand your level of education. Don't overestimate yourself. What you should focus on is having a child, got it? I've actually completed a degree in finance by correspondence, not just middle school. Yet, despite being a learned household, they couldn't escape the pressure to have kids. Henry and I hadn't consummated our marriage. He never brought it up, and neither did I. Maybe he's staying chaste for his first love. Perhaps Henry's tantrum yesterday was because his mother brought up having kids. I googled Carrie's name. I thought it was a common name, and I would need to scroll. But I didn't. The first result was Chinese genius PhD. Carrie wins physics award. The picture showed a quiet-looking girl with glasses. So that's the type Henry likes. A genius PhD obviously points to her excellence. Henry left me alone. During the day, I would head over to Mike's place. But I had nothing to offer, so I just ordered takeout for them, poured some water, and took my online correspondence courses on the side. I asked Mike, am I getting in your way? I don't really know anything. Mike was sincere. Not at all. You're such a ray of sunshine. You've brought us a lot of joy. $1 million goes fast, burned through in 3 months. I was constantly racking my brain for ways to make money. I should have asked for more than just $1 million, maybe squeezed more out of Becky's dad. Every time I looked at the yellow rosewood dining set, I couldn't help but eye it like a starving wolf, thinking maybe I could secretly sell a piece or two, and no one would notice. Your project ran out of funds? Henry suddenly asked over breakfast. I didn't expect him to know about that. Yeah, you were daring enough to put all your savings in. Once the cash flow stops, you'll be left with nothing. Mike's been out chasing investors again lately, but it's not going well. I said I'll invest 3 million. I looked at Henry in shock. Huh? I asked him, where will you get that kind of money? Investments, he answered, keeping it brief as usual. Spring arrived. The flowers are blooming in the park. Want to see them? Since his accident, Henry only received physical therapy at home, rarely stepping out. Despite his grim face, I pushed him to the park. Crabapple blossoms and cherry flowers bloomed in turns. Kids played soccer on the lawn, their laughter ringing loud. Having not seen the sun for long, Henry's face was pale, almost sickly. A thin gray blanket lay over his legs, making him look fragile yet refined. I said, Henry, want to be the goalie? They wouldn't dare hit you. Molly, are you looking for trouble? I wasn't, but Henry ended up mad anyway, because I bumped his wheelchair over a stone. And he threw a fit. Oh well, I can deal with it for the money. Henry's legs weren't without hope for recovery, but he needed a 6-month stint abroad for rehab. He'd been unwilling to go for rehab before but had now changed his mind. However, no one from his family was going with him. His dad was tied up with business, and his mom needed to accompany his brother to an auction. No one to accompany him. So, I volunteered to go with Henry. We did share a household registration after all. His light eyes glanced at me, but gave no clear response. The day we landed, I realized we were in trouble. The local guide was delayed, leaving Henry and me stranded at the airport for 3 to 4 hours, starving. Henry's face darkened like an impending storm. And me, with just a middle school education, only knew basic English phrases like how are you, fine, thank you, and you. But life had taught me well. After all, I'd been working those screws for 5 years. So while Henry fumed, I somehow managed to buy us 2 burgers through gestures and guessing. When I handed Henry his burger, he looked at me thoughtfully before taking it. Unlike my messy eating, Henry still managed to eat with grace. When our tour guide finally showed up, Henry was still munching on his burger. The guide was a Chinese woman accompanied by 4 foreign security guards. From my TV watching experience, I could tell Henry's English had that full rich quality, like the first note from a cello. He was chatting with the security guys. Wait, if he speaks English, why didn't he order his own food? We lived pretty far from everything, and the security team would drive us to rehab every day. I'd wait for Henry at the hospital, hearing his painful screams and seeing sweat the size of peas roll down his forehead. I could only sit on those hard hospital seats and wait. It must have been painful since he always looked so pale afterward. Once, he even bit his lower lip till it bled. We had been traveling for about 2 weeks when he started scanning his phone thoughtfully. My family never called. I sincerely said, you know, I'm an orphan. Henry let out something of a mocking laugh. Our rehab hospital was way up north. One day after rehab, it started really snowing hard, like giant feathers falling. Our car broke down, and the security guys got out to check but never came back. The heater broke too, and it was getting freezing. No phone signal either. I figured if things stayed like this, we'd freeze in that car. Luckily, I've got a great memory and am pretty strong. We'd taken this route plenty of times before. I carried Henry for 2 kilometers. The ground was slippery and freezing cold. I fell a bunch of times, leaving Henry a bit scruffy. But he didn't lose his temper, which was good. We reached a farmhouse. Henry talked to them and arranged for us to stay the night. I wrapped his legs in blankets to keep him from getting frostbite. He gazed down looking thoughtful, and then said, they really want me dead. With such a big operation, why would the guide be late on purpose? Suddenly I understood. Her delay was no accident. He looked at me and said, fool. After a bit, Henry said, Molly, I need to use the bathroom. There weren't any fancy toilets here. When I helped him down, I gave him a concerned look. Hey, you really gonna be okay? Henry's face went cold. Get out. A little while later, I heard a heavy thud from the bathroom. I knocked, and Henry's strained voice said, don't come in. When I broke in, he was on the ground, arms trembling. I picked him up and set him back in the wheelchair. He was still shaking. The landlady gave us a blanket. To ward off the cold, I wrapped it tightly around Henry and me. I could hear his heavy breathing, feel his body warmth, and also, something poking my back. Henry, I almost growled through my teeth. How can someone's legs be useless, yet some parts work just fine? Henry seemed embarrassed but kept his cool. With a bit of grit, He said, "Just a natural reaction, darling." That was the first time Henry called me that. I gotta admit, it made my cheeks a bit warm. He kept his hands politely by his sides the whole night. At first I stayed on high alert, but eventually, I relaxed and fell asleep. When I woke up, the security team was already in the living room, and Henry was sitting in his wheelchair, not looking too happy. Once back at the villa, all the security personnel were replaced with new ones. They were Henry's own people. He'd lost trust in the old crew. After rehab was set, I headed back home. Our company was launching its product. At the press conference, I wanted Mike to do the talking, but he insisted I should since I'm the boss. After 6 months, my Mandarin had greatly improved. Even if it hadn't, no one would care about an accent from a woman who's made it to the top. I didn't expect to have much to say about our product, but when I put on that suit, stepped in those heels and hit the stage, with spotlights shining down, I found myself talking confidently. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. Mike was clapping the hardest. I texted Henry. His reply was quick and plain, "Congrats." Seeing him on video, using some external gadgets to walk, made me happy. What surprised me was when Becky's mom got in touch. Ever since I married into this family, aside from when I blew through that $1 million, Becky's mom never contacted me again. It was Becky's mom on the line. "Molly, why haven't you come home for a meal since getting married? Are you free tonight?" I wasn't sure what she was planning, but I went home anyway. Becky was in a new blue princess dress, her nose still stuck up in the air. The table was filled with colorful dishes, though sadly, I can't handle spicy food. Becky's dad, who usually looked down on everyone, surprisingly gave me a friendly look. "Molly, don't get too full of yourself after a little success. I've got reliable people who can go over your software. Bring it, and we'll have a look." I laughed, suddenly understanding. They're a traditional appliance company hit hard by AI. Sales were declining, and Mike's project could save them. I replied calmly, "Our trade secret. If you're interested, contact our business department for collaboration." "Molly, what's with your attitude? Remember, it's because of us you're alive. Everything you have comes from me and your mother." Becky's dad quickly got upset. I narrowed my eyes. "You did give me life. But then what? Was I really switched at the hospital?" Becky's dad stammered, "Molly, you ungrateful. The moment you abandoned me at the orphanage door, did you think about your conscience at all?" Becky's dad had that look of anger when someone gets caught lying. "You're talking nonsense." Becky's mom didn't look too good either. "Molly, just say less, please." But I got more worked up. "When you had a kid before marriage, did you think about decency and morals? You get out of here." "Fine, I'm leaving." The fruit looked pretty tempting, so I grabbed a pear, eating it on my way out. The story is pretty cliché. Becky's mom, a lady with family money, fell for a broke guy, Becky's dad. They ran away together, had me, ran out of cash, and left me at the orphanage. Eventually, Becky's grandfather softened his stance and helped them start a company. The business grew and became successful. What a bunch of hypocrites. If they really wanted to find me, why wait till I'm in my 20s to do so? Plus, I've got a big surprise coming for them. The company was finally on track, making some deals in the traditional home appliance industry. Why they didn't make the first batch of collaboration is a mystery though. But then, I didn't expect the company to face its biggest crisis yet. Our product, the Smart Pooch, was a camera brain device mixed with smart home appliances. The issue was with the camera. According to the program, the Smart Pooch's camera would only work when the owner activated it. But there was a viral video online, claiming it spied on people, alleging a privacy invasion. Public outcry was swift. Return orders flooded in just as the factory ramped up production. Hundreds of thousands of products piled up in storage. It got worse. A video of me assembling screws at the factory surfaced, with people labeling me a gold digger living off a man. The company grew too quickly. Our legal and PR teams hadn't kept pace. If this issue wasn't resolved, we might face bankruptcy and debt in the billions. I lost 6 pounds and developed cold sores that week. We held a press conference saying we were investigating, but the public wasn't buying it. Mike and I worked nonstop for 3 days, night and day, trying to pinpoint the problem. As dawn broke, Mike had a thought. "I have a mentor, she might help." I didn't expect Mike's mentor to be Carrie. When her face showed up on screen, I did a double take. If you're sure the product's not the issue, maybe start from the source, she suggested. I learned then that even someone as strong as Carrie had rumors spread about her. In total isolation, without anyone believing in her, she infiltrated the rumor mill, finding the original source. It was that guy in her class, a seemingly quiet guy. Even she found it surprising since there was no known grudge. With a plan set, we chose to call the cops. With Mike's skills, it wasn't tough to track down the suspect. When the police nabbed the guy, he was at a spa indulging. Just an unemployed middle-aged guy, crudely faking a video mimicking the smart pooch using his phone, then uploading it online. Coupled with some support, it sparked a frenzy. Following police clarification, I held another press conference. On that day, I stood up on stage, revealing the police findings. As for the rumors about my marriage, my family could have clarified but didn't step up. But it's okay. Truth has a way of settling, even if it's slow. The company's reputation bounced back, backorders began shipping out, and while there were losses, they were manageable. I didn't foresee Henry stepping up to clear my name. Standing before the camera, Henry said, "Recently, there have been many rumors about my wife. I want to clarify, Molly is my wife and an outstanding entrepreneur. Her success is by her own merit. A person's worth shouldn't be judged by their origins. Even a flower from mud holds its own beauty. After things went south for the company, I never sought his help. Those weeks were a blur, with Henry and I hardly texting. I didn't realize he could stand on his own now. I even forgot my 23rd birthday," Mike remembered. "We had a little cake at work, and he gave me a Lego set. When I brought the Lego home, oddly, the whole house was dark. As I felt my way in, a soft flicker of a switch broke the silence. The living room lights clicked on, and there was Henry, holding a waterfall-like bouquet of purple flowers in the middle of the room. He'd dressed up, slicking back his hair and donning a sharp suit. A real Prince Charming. "Happy birthday, Molly." He handed me the flowers, and that's when I realized how much taller he was than me. Just last year, I was a factory worker dealing with screws. Sure, Henry was handsome, had a great family background, and was incredibly capable. If it were a year ago, I might have felt like a princess in glass slippers. But now, aside from being touched, there wasn't much else. After dinner with Henry, lying in the same bed, he asked, "Molly, is it okay?" "I'm sorry." I turned him down. Ever the gentleman, he didn't push. Besides that bouquet of flowers, Henry gave me quite a big gift. There was a lot of online gossip before, and someone was stirring the pot. Turns out, the one behind it was Becky's father. I wasn't really surprised when I found out. Henry asked me carefully, "The evidence is all here. They're your biological parents after all. Whether to use it is up to you." I asked Henry, "Will it affect you?" "The two companies have separated, and there's little dependence now, plus, I'm no longer part of my family." "Got it." At the same time, I sent my parents a big gift. Becky, who was favored by my mom, wasn't adopted, but was actually Becky's father's love child. Their young romance lasted till now, but only with a shiny facade. Sadly, there's no evidence of how they abandoned me back then. Once a woman is cornered, she can unleash great potential. Becky's mom decisively dealt with her husband's infidelities, then charged her own husband with embezzlement, and sent him to jail. This heartbroken middle-aged mom called me late at night. "Molly, you're all I have." "Thanks, but I've only ever had myself." I got my self-study bachelor's degree, and then I started studying languages and took the IELTS. My initial degree wasn't great, but my experiences were rich enough. I got accepted to a decent-ranked foreign university for my master's. When I told Henry about it, he seemed especially down. "You're leaving me too, aren't you?" I was sincere. "Before leaving the country, I don't want to hold you back. Can we get a divorce?" Henry insisted. "You should think it over. I support your decision to study abroad. Long-distance marriage is tough, but we can give it a shot." "But I don't see it that way. Our marriage never had a foundation of love. I think the first time you saw me, you might have even had some disdain." "Yes, but I've changed my view of you. We can develop feelings without having any initially. Henry, we might really be from two different worlds. When you're strolling through a big mall, I'm probably just finishing a night shift at a factory. When you're deciding between sushi or Korean barbecue, I'm thrilled about the extra egg in my Chinese burger. Back in the factory days, I knew I'd pursue a self-study degree. I am selfish, marrying you is just to boost myself. I'm still young, there's so much more to see and learn. My life's mission is to keep climbing, and I don't think I have the heart now to give time to love. If our paths cross again in the future, maybe we'll meet. Life abroad is fulfilling. I'm like a sponge, soaking up new knowledge. By the way, I did end up buying that screw factory. As its performance declined, it only cost me over 30 million. It became an upstream parts supplier for my tech company. I bumped into Henry a few times. I was always in a rush between classes and just nodded at him. Extra Henry. I was a lame guy about to marry a middle schooler. When I first met her, she had dark skin, lacked style, and wore an ill-fitting houndstooth suit. I pessimistically thought, as long as it's not Carrie, it doesn't matter who I marry. Molly had bright eyes and was clever. She got along with all the servants in the villa. A middle schooler wanting to start a tech company? Ridiculous. Yet she actually did it. She has this vibrant energy, like a beam of light forcing its way into my life. I wanted to be by her side. After our divorce, I went looking for her several times, and she was always in a rush. I've started a relationship with my company secretary now, and on bigger platforms, I still hear news of Molly. I wish her all the best. The end.